Barakati Hawa, Barakati Oshai, Barakati Hawa, Barakati Oshai. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rukakudash. Double on Sabossus and Ellis of Great Millstone. Peace and salutation to you, beloved Akim, that is pushing this word in sincerity and truth, with humiliation all across the four winds. To you, I salute. This is the brother Zaiwan, rocking you with another lesson to spirit, Bobby Abishmashai. Okay, I want to get in a brief lessons. Let your words be few, man. Let your words be few. All right. Before the Most High, before man, let your words be few. You know, because you don't want to be considered this. All right. It says, empty barrels make the most noise. A little lesson on this times past, but it just jumped my spirit to do it again. It says, empty barrels make the most noise means that people who have the least knowledge, wisdom, or substance are often the ones who talk the loudest and boast the most. You see that? You don't want to be considered an empty barrel, because we had brethren what was once amongst us, was considered an empty barrel. Talking yap, 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 and have the least knowledge, think you know it all and boasting, you know, empty barrel. All right? You don't want to be considered an empty barrel. All right? Okay? So let your words be few, especially in these times. All right? Because, in these times, you know, a wise man don't have much to say. You don't have to add to every thing. Sometimes it's just best to just be quiet. You guys always want to be sound relevant. You know, you see, sometimes it's just best to just be quiet. It says the core idea, the comparison, a hollow, empty barrel echoes loudly when you hit it or move it, while a full barrel is heavy, solid, and quiet. You can hear all kind of noise when the empty barrel, because it's hollow. Yes, you see, it says the human meaning, just like the empty barrel. People who lack real facts or skills try to cover it up by making a big fuss and shouting their opinions. You know, it says wise people, smart and truly knowledgeable people tend to stay calm, listen more, and speak only when they have something real to say. All right, and let's get some scriptures. All right, because the scriptures speak about these things, right? All right, Sirach 32, Sirach 32, GNT. I can read it in GNT, and I can read it. I can read it in the KJV. I can read it in the um, GNT. Sirach 32, right? It says, and 7, speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked, Salah. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much. In few words, be as one that knoweth yet holdeth his tongue, and that's a wise person. All right. It says the GNT. If you are young, do not speak unless you have to, but never more than twice, and only if someone speaks to you first. You see? Okay. Come to the point and say it all in a few words. Show that you are well informed, but stay quiet. You see that? Stay quiet. Few words, man. Not no extra yapping, trying to sound deep or whatever. You know, comprehend much in few words. You don't want to be considered an empty barrel. They're the ones who make the most noise. All right, let's go from the aspect of a fool, right? Let's get Proverbs 17. I think it's the last. All right, it says Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool. Let me start with 27. He that had knowledge spared his words. You see? Let me get this in the NLT. Because the NLT go hard. Proverbs. Salakia. It's Proverbs 17 and 27 to 28. A truly wise person uses few words. You see that? A truly wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even tempered. You see that? Even fools are thought wise when they keep silent. With their mouth shut, they seem intelligent. You see? So you gotta know when to speak, sometimes. Not just yap, yap, yap. Because even fools are taught wise when they keep silent with their mouth shut, they seem intelligent. You see that? And a truly wise person uses few words. All right? Because they ain't gonna be yap, yap, yap. They know, but sometimes they don't want to sound relevant all the time. All right? Let's get this other precept, right? Sirach 33 and 5. The heart of a foolish is like a cartwheel, and his thoughts are like a rolling axle tree. All right? Okay? When you look at a person who always yap, yap, yap talking, they all over the place. All right? Okay? All over the place. You know? I see Jake could be talking to one thing and to another thing. You can't stick to one subject matter. All over the place. His thoughts are like a rolling axle tree, all over the place. All right. Of course, you get confused. All right. All right. Let's get us out of precept in the book of Job. Let's see what Job say. But sometimes it just, useful, comprehend much in few words, man. Just Job 13 and 5. If only you could be silent, that's the wisest thing you could do. All right. That's a different translation I read. It's a different translation I read. Just Job 13 and just the KJV. Oh, that you would altogether hold your peace, and it should be your wisdom. It says the ISV. I wish you would all shut up. Then at least you would appear to be wise. You see that? Easy English. It would be better if you said nothing. That would be a wise thing to do. BSP. If you only remain silent, for that would be your wisdom. BB. If you'll only be quiet, it would be a sign of wisdom. You see? All right. You see that? So even a fool, when he's silent, you see him wise. All right, because you don't want to be considered a fool. All right, use few words, man. All right, in the eyes of Yahweh Shemel Shai and men. All right, let me show another example of using few words. This is Ecclesiastes 5. Keep thy mouth when thou goest to those who are power, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools. When you give the sacrifice of fools, you guys yap, 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 you're always talking. Sometimes you just know when to speak. For they consider not that they do evil. You could quench the spirit when you're talking too much. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before power. For Yahweh was in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. You see that? Let your words be few. All right. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. So you can know a fool. All right. You just gotta let your words be few, man. All right. Start with myself. All right. Let me show you an example of a fool. Ecclesiastes 10 and 3. Yeah. Also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him. All right. And he said to everyone that he is a fool. So you could tell a person who ain't got no wisdom. All right. Me jump down to verse 14. A fool also is full of words. A man cannot tell which should be and what should be after him. Who can tell him? All right. Always talking, man. Yap, yap, yap. Like an oxel tree. All right. Sometimes it's best to just be quiet. You don't want to be considered a fool. All right. This Proverbs 15:2. The tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools pour out foolishness. All right. A lot of our people in our mindset, but you know, let me get it in the NLT. Proverbs 15:2. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, cause he gonna know when to say and what to say. But the mouth of fool belches out foolishness. So they all yap 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 yap. All right, all right. But at the end of the day, what does scripture tell us in the book of Sirach again? All right, Sirach 32:7. Speak, young man, if there be need of thee. Yet scarcely when thou art twice asked. Now, you don't have to completely shut your mouth. You know, you could speak, but know when to speak. All right. Sometimes you could feel the energy in the room. You gotta know when to speak. You know, observe. You know, discern the energy in the room. You know, especially when I'm a lock him. All right. It says, if thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them. And when ancient men are in the place, use not many words. Before the thunder go lightning, before a shamefaced man shall go favor. You see, use not many words, especially amongst elders. You know, don't be trying to sound equal with them. You see, like you think you want a level. No, know your place. All right, use not many words, man. Comprehend much in few words, man. Don't try to sound deep. You see, let your words be few. You know, it would be better for you. Let your words be few. Okay, but yeah, man, through the spirit, like I say, you know, don't be considered an empty barrel. All right, don't be considered an empty barrel. All right. It says how people use it to describe someone who argues loudly about a topic they do not understand. It says to warn others not to be fooled by someone who sounds very confident and loud but has no actual proof of talent. You don't want to be like that. An empty barrel means that people who have the least knowledge, wisdom, or substance are often the ones who talk the loudest and boast the most. You see? You don't want to be considered an empty barrel. Okay? But yeah, man, I just want to bring that out the spirit and Bob. Yeah, Shalom.